Hello. I'm told the word blooper originated from the last World War, when unacceptable words and phrases were bloopered or deleted with blue pencil by a band of censors vetting all correspondence. Today's word, spelled with 2 O's, simply applies to broadcasters getting things wrong in one way or another, including one of the best-loved post-war catchphrases for Radio 1, pop pickers.
Greetings, pick poppers. Had to happen, didn't it?
Most slips can be easily avoided provided the brain's in good working order.
The old broadcaster's prayer used to be, Ted, and I think it certainly applies in your case, embrace your game before you open your mouth.
Sometimes it's the microphone that needs a wary eye.
Dr. Fitzgerald spent yesterday with Mrs. Thatcher at Chequers. Later today he'll be meeting with the Liberal and SDP leaders. Sorry about that, a microphone's just fallen to pieces in the studio.
Each week in this series we'll have a special topic, things like sport, children, politics. But, before that, the professionals.
A buyer has been found for a D-side company, Data Magnetics, which called in receivers 5 weeks ago because of financial crisis. The 165 workers have been kept on, and the company which makes floppy disks has continued to trade.
In the Norfolk village of East Dereham, there was a pitched battle as 200 youths threw bricks, stones and coins.
Mr. Geekas, can I ask you why you voted against?
I did not vote against.
I'm sorry about that. I'd been misinformed and understood you voted against.
The Germans, the former enemy, had no part in today's ceremonies. D-Day itself was to us the turning point in the war in Europe. But at that same time, Nazi Germany was involved in an even grimmer battle.
Meanwhile, the chairman of LAND, Lincolnshire Against Nuclear Dumping, says he's delighted.
And that was General Sir Charles Guthrie, CNC BAOR. And no anus horribilis there. But what of the Royal Air Force?
Some broadcasters are much more prone to weave their way through the tangled web of Spoonerisms than others. Thank goodness.
The United Nations peacekeeping force in Bosnia is trying to secure full control of Sarajevo airport so that emergency supplies can be flown into the besieged city. 2 French planes loaded with food and medicines are waiting in the Croatian port of Split.
Outside broadcasts and state occasions often need particular attention to detail.
The Queen arrived in Glasgow shortly to open an art gallery purpose-built to house a multi-million-pound collection that's been undercover for 40 years. Jackie McPherson reports.
Shipping magnets, Sir William.
Jackie McPherson doesn't report there.
People who write scripts, either for themselves or for others, have to watch their spelling. You wouldn't think spelling was too important on the radio. It is. Take the word flower, the plant, or the stuff you cook with.
Outside, some 6,000 anti-apartheid protesters fought running battles with the police, throwing bricks, flowers and petrol bombs.
This week's topic is the weather, something of endless fascination to each and every one of us.
The weather forecast, it should be dry and sunny at first, becoming cloudy this afternoon.
Most newsreaders have to treat the news with the utmost reverence, but once it's over, the guard can be dropped for the weather, though not too far.
The Essex County weather. Mist or potty fag with drizzle at times could persist throughout the day, but it could brighten up for a time in some places later today.
The weather forecast staying mostly cloudy this evening and tonight. Most places will be dry, but with some drizzle and hill fog patches may occur overnight and at first tomorrow. The next news at 7 o'clock.
And the weather in Cyprus. Tonight will start fine, but cloudy weather is expected to spread from the west.
And the forecast for northern England is incest and rain. That is incessant rain.
The weather tonight, very chilly. Not as bad as it has been, though. Temperatures hovering around 4 degrees. And there may be some mist patches around later on tonight. And a few spots of rain as well.
News of any changes in the weather can also have a surprising effect on other bits of broadcasting, like the traffic and travel news.
Cars on elevated sections of the motorway might be buffeted by 50-mile-an-hour 50-mile-an-hour winds.
Good old radio. Once again, beating television hands down with the quality of the pictures.
In a shock announcement early this morning, the Army in Northern Ireland announced that if the weather does not change, it will remain the same.
The late-night shipping forecast from a lonely studio in the bowels of Broadcasting House is of vital importance to those at sea. Serious stuff. Not a time to be engaged in a Herculean struggle to fight back the giggles.
General situation, a depression centred near Iceland will move steadily eastwards across the Norwegian Sea, with an associated cold front crossing all Scottish coastal waters overnight and tomorrow morning. Now the details. In west coast waters from the Solway Firth to Mull, the wind will be southwest, force 3 to 5, veering westerly tomorrow morning.
There'll be rain tonight and at first tomorrow, with moderate or poor visibility, becoming good in the afternoon. In all western and northern waters from Mull round to Wick, including waters round the Hebrides, Orkney and Shetland, the wind will be southwesterly, force 5 or 6 at first, veering westerly by morning and moderating, force 4 or 5, then gradually veering northwesterly in the afternoon. Rain and poor visibility at first with fog patches will soon give way to mostly fair conditions, with the visibility becoming good. Scattered showers may affect waters round Orkney and Shetland. In east coast waters from Wick to the Tyne, the wind will be southwesterly, veering westerly tomorrow, force 4 or 5.
I think everything's okay now.
The weather reports from coastal stations now issued 2 hours ago, starting with Machrihanish. Southwest 5, 1.5 miles, drizzle, 1014, falling more slowly.
Uh-oh.
Sulskerry, south-southwest 7. I'm very sorry about this. I'll try and get it right. Sulskerry, south-southwest 7, 1 mile, rain, 1010, falling. Dice, south-southwest 4, 16 miles, 1014, falling more slowly. And I'm very relieved to say that there are no gale warnings operating for sea areas north of 55 degrees north.
And that's the weather. Next week's topic is the tangled world of politics and how the politicians put their collective feet in it, whatever it is. The BBC Club is a great place for comparing notes on moments when things didn't go entirely as planned, and being famous certainly doesn't get you off the hook.
Well, on Radio 2 one day I was interviewing Gene Wilder, and I had looked forward to the moment enormously, and the film that he was talking about was The Woman in Red. That turned out to be a fantastic movie anyway. And so we'd been through the whole chat about the film, and we'd had a half an hour of conversation, so I'd been in his company quite a long time, and he was a very relaxed guy and easy to get along with. And I wanted to end the conversation, and before we went to the news, with a track from an album that he'd done in the past. And so I played the music, and I back-referenced and said, well, that was Gene Wilder, etc. And the next thing I looked up, and I saw everybody behind the glass, all the engineers, including Gene Wilder, absolutely in convulsions and leaning up against the glass. And I couldn't quite understand it, but I went to the news anyway. And afterwards they said to me, pressed the key, and they said, do you realise what you just said? And I went, oh gosh, did I give the wrong time for the news or whatever it was? And they went, no. They went, Willy Wanker and the Chocolate Factory? And I went, I didn't say that. And they went, you did.
Another visit to the BBC Club next week. Virtually all of the bloopers in these programmes are taken from live broadcasts, not the ubiquitous cutting room floor. Funny word, live. You couldn't really broadcast if you weren't live.
The dead man was Wynn Street in a mainly Catholic area of the town when a red Ford Escort containing 2 men drove slowly towards him.
Grammar, the enemy of all radio presenters.
I'm very confused. I don't know whether they were frogs or toads.
What, Rose, what were, oh God, I can't remember whether it was or were. I can't get it right. All I'm after is to know what kind of what was the texture of the skins. There we are, got it out.
Smooth.
It's so easy to believe you're making sense when you possibly aren't.
Deaf-blind people are in the unfortunate position of falling between 2 stools.
It's crazy. I don't know why this government won't do it. People have cried out for hanging to come back, and they've just turned a blind ear.
But what about someone in a wheelchair?
Somebody in a wheelchair can move probably quite a lot faster than somebody on 2 pairs of legs.
I've just got 1 pair, but then I'm only a broadcaster.
On page 3, Brian Giggs has got a new haircut. Page 7, Horrible Hewat's cad his chips. Nice play on words there by the Sun. Richard Littlejohn's going on about Tony Blair, so it's all about Tony Blair and Jonathan Hewat.
James Hewat, you mean?
Time now for the bloopers phone call of the week. Not a blooper as such. Every on-air phone conversation develops into one of those times when you stop what you're doing and stare incredulously at your radio.
Are you ready for a nice, simple question?
Yes, make it simple, Bob.
Well, between you and me, it's going to be very simple, all right?
Yes?
Lillian, can you tell me, for what is the city of Pisa famed? Pisa.
Pisa famed?
Yes, it's famous for something. Now then.
Can you give me a clue, Bob?
Can I give you a clue?
Yeah.
Now then, let me see. How can we best put this then? I don't know. I had an inclination that you'd have got this one. Have you ever heard of Pisa?
No, I haven't.
You've never heard of Pisa?
No.
Let's start more simply. Have you ever heard of Italy?
Italy? Yes, I've heard of Italy, yes.
Yeah, you've heard of Italy. Good. Well, that's a good beginning. Now then, Lillian, in the country of Italy, which is not that very, very far away, there is a very nice city called Pisa.
Yeah.
Pisa. Right?
Yeah.
Once upon a time, some people did build something there in this fair city of Pisa. It was supposed to be straight up. Straight up it was. In fact, it isn't.
I don't know.
No. They built a fine edifice, nay, building.
Not Rome, is it?
Pardon?
Rome?
No, it isn't Rome, actually. No. It's a thing. It is a building.
A building?
Ah, now you're getting to it, aren't you?
Oh, no, it's very difficult.
It is, I'm afraid, yes. Let me think. How better can we... Look, where are you at the moment? I mean, are you sitting down? Are you lying on your bed? Are you...
I'm just sitting down
You're just sitting
on the end of the bed, you know.
Ah, you know. Look,
Yeah.
Listen, Lillian, supposing you were to stand up, just for a moment.
Yeah.
Right. Put out one arm,
Yeah.
press it against the wall.
Press it against the wall.
Just the one arm, you know. It'll do no damage, I promise you.
Oh.
It's a painless exercise, this. Now then.
Painless exercise.
Yeah. Now, what would you say you are doing against the wall?
Leaning.
Ah, now then. Are we getting to something famous in the city of Pisa? Leaning. No?
No, Bob, I'm sorry, look, you know.
Have you ever heard... Listen, there's a thing in Blackpool.
Yeah.
Now then, what's the most famous building in Blackpool?
Tower.
Ah, now, let's put those two words together, shall we?
Yeah.
Now then. And it's in Pisa. Yeah.
Not the...
Go on.
Not the Tower of Pisa, isn't it?
It is the Tower of Pisa.
Oh, is it?
Lillian, you're playing a blinder, love.
Hey, Bob,
Yes,
before
dear.
you go,
Yeah?
would you send me a photograph, please?
Of the Leaning Tower?
No, of you.
God bless us and save us. You have no taste, madam. Certainly.
Next week, I want you to join me in Norfolk for a mystery voice competition in a high street phone box. Don't fail to miss it, will you?
Our next programme should be fun. And it'll be different anyway.
Now, could you react to my in a future programme? Say our next programme.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But I've got myself down as doing this bit.
Oh, sorry, it's me. That's why. Ah, right.
I was a bit shocked.
And we'll be hearing from her again in a future programme.
Where's the signature tune?
Let's have the signature tune.
Oh. We'll have to do that bit again.
No, we won't, because I see a continuity person hovering.
Bloopers was an independent production devised, produced and presented by Jonathan Hewat.
And from the British Broadcasting Corporation, you heard World Roundup. This is Bob Berry in London.
Bye-bye.